I've always said, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. The same goes for your money. It doesn't matter how old you are, 20 or 60. You can still make capital work for you, not the other way around. And if you watch this video till the end, I'll show you a practical model that can help you reach financial freedom. And yes, hit that subscribe button, because this wisdom is something you'll want to keep. Statistics show that most people over the age of 50 have less than $10,000 in savings. At the same time, some are building passive income without having a large amount of startup capital, just by changing their approach. And here's the paradox. The older we get, the more money passes through our hands, but the less of it ends up working for us. That's why today I don't just want to talk about investing. We're going to talk about a philosophy that didn't just make me wealthier, it made me wiser. Most people work for money, but only a few make money work for them. I say, it doesn't matter where you start. What matters is what you're willing to settle for. That's why, regardless of your age, education, or experience, you can start building income streams that set you free. I'll show you how to shift your mindset so that capital becomes your ally, not just a number sitting in your bank account. We'll talk about simple, accessible tools you can start using this week. But most importantly, I want you to start looking at every dollar you have as a potential employee. And then, sooner or later, you'll have a whole team working for you, even while you sleep. When I was young, I worked hard, and I'll be honest with you, hard work is a noble thing. But one day, my mentor said to me, "Jim, you've been working your whole life, but your work isn't leaving a legacy. You need a plan where money keeps working even when you don't." That was my first awakening. I realized there's a difference between active income and passive income. One relies on your effort, the other on your wisdom. And so I started asking myself, could I build a system where money works, regardless of whether I'm there or not? Imagine that every dollar you earn isn't just a piece of paper, but a potential employee. And instead of letting that employee just sit in your wallet or lose power to inflation, you can send them to work. Buy a stock, a share of a fund, real estate, or at least save it in an interest-bearing account. The key isn't having a lot of money. The key is developing the mindset of an investor. I've often said, your philosophy is more important than your wallet. If you learn to think like an investor, money will start finding its way to you. Let me tell you a story. I met a man who was 62. He said, "Jim, it's too late for me. I spent my whole life working, not building assets." But instead of dwelling on regret, we made a simple plan. 10% of his income into index funds, another 5% into an interest-bearing account. And within 2 years, he had more savings than in all the previous decades combined. No magic, just discipline and a new philosophy. You can't change the past, but you are fully responsible for what you start today. Many people think, I don't understand investing, it's not for me. But you didn't know how to drive until you got behind the wheel. It's the same with finances. You start small, $1, one fund, one step, and gradually, confidence builds. People often ask me, Jim, how do I know where to invest? And I'd say, first, invest in yourself. Self-education has the highest return. Read one book on investing. Listen to one lecture, take one free course, and then with every dollar that comes in, you're not just spending, you're managing. I wasn't a financial genius. I just decided to stop letting money slip through my fingers, and you can make that choice too. Find a simple model you understand. Stocks, bonds, gold, real estate, and stick with it. Investing isn't about guessing the perfect time. It's about the habit of investing consistently. And most importantly, don't panic when the market drops. Because a wise investor doesn't follow emotions. They focus on the long game. Remember what I said. Don't become a victim of short-term swings. Become the master of the long-term vision. And one more thing. Don't underestimate the power of compound interest. It's one of the most powerful tools nature ever gave us. You invest a little, and over time, it grows not arithmetically, but exponentially. But it only works for those who start and don't stop. Discipline beats talent, and consistency beats random success. Maybe you're thinking, but Jim, I'm not young anymore. And I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. Success doesn't ask your age. It asks your intention. If you have the intention to change your family's financial story, you're already on the right path. I like the metaphor. If you sit in a boat and don't paddle, the current will carry you away. But if you pick up the oar and start rowing, even against the wind, you'll gradually reach the shore. Your capital is your oar, your choices, your direction, and action. That's your motion. Remember this, investing isn't about big sums. It's about big decisions. And every day is a new chance to make a wise decision with your money. Will it work for you? Or will you keep working just for it? I often said, money is a great servant, but a dangerous master. And once you truly understand that, you begin asking different questions. Not, how much do I earn? But how effectively am I using what I have? Most people earn income and immediately spend it all on consumption. The wise, on the other hand, set some aside and make it generate more money. That's not greed. That's strategy. That's responsibility to yourself and your family. If you're not building a financial cushion, you're putting your future at risk. But if you are, you're building independence. One of my favorite strategies is income allocation. Imagine every dollar you earn is like a basket of apples. One apple you eat, one you save for seeds, one you give to charity, and one you plant to grow a new orchard. That's a model of long-term stability. 70% for living, 10% for saving, 10% for investing, 10% for giving. Suddenly, you're no longer just a consumer. You're an investor, a philanthropist, and a builder of your own future. You don't need millions. You need decisions. Have you ever thought that every purchase is a vote for your future? When you spend impulsively, you're voting for short-term pleasure. When you invest, you're voting for long-term strength. I've met people who didn't earn much but invested $50 every month. After 5 years, they had more financial confidence than people earning 3 times as much but saving nothing. It's not about income, it's about philosophy. And if you change that, your entire financial path will change forever. A friend of mine found out at 47 that he only had $800 in his account. He said, "Jim, I feel like a failure." I told him, "That feeling isn't your fate, it's just a signal to act." We made a plan. He sold things he didn't use, cut expenses, opened a brokerage account. A year later, he had $5,000. In 3 years, over $20,000. He didn't need $1 million. He needed to believe it wasn't too late. And the truth is, too late is just an excuse not to start. Investing isn't just about the stock market. It's also about creating sources of income. Maybe you cook well. Start a cooking blog and monetize it. Maybe you have a spare room. Rent it out. Maybe you love writing. Create an ebook. Passive income isn't always complicated schemes. Often, it's just about monetizing what you already know or have. The key is to stop thinking you need advanced skills. What you really need is an idea, discipline, and a willingness to learn. I've always said, financial freedom begins with responsibility. As long as you wait for help from the government, your employer, or your relatives, you're not free. But when you say to yourself, "My future is in my hands," that's when real movement begins. And then every penny, every investment becomes a step toward freedom. Don't wait for big opportunities. Start using the small ones, because every big amount started as a small one, and every financial empire began with one smart decision. One more thing, be patient. We live in an age of instant gratification. People want results overnight, but investing is like gardening. You don't plant today and harvest tomorrow. You plant, you water, you wait, and only then do you reap. If you can learn to wait, you'll become wealthier than those who rushed and lost, because the market rewards patience. And so does life. Look back on your past. How much money has passed through your hands, and how much of it stayed? This isn't a judgment, it's a wake-up call, because now you know every dollar is a potential seed. And if you stop spending mindlessly and start planting, in a few years you'll find yourself in your own financial garden. And there, in the shade of the trees you planted yourself, you'll say, "Yes, this was a good path." There's one more important principle we need to talk about, and it has nothing to do with numbers, markets, or strategies. It's about your philosophy, because you can have the best portfolio and still be dependent, and you can have modest resources and still be free. I've always believed that real investing begins with understanding your values. Why do you want money? Not just how much. But why does it matter to you? Is it to prove something to others? To stop worrying about tomorrow? To provide for your kids? Or maybe just to have peace of mind? Because once you clearly understand your reason, you no longer need motivation. You gain meaning, and meaning is stronger than inspiration. I've seen people who made millions and felt empty inside. And I've seen others with modest means who built assets with deep gratitude and clarity. The truth is, money isn't the goal. It's a tool. And when you see it that way, you stop serving money and start building a life. I remember sitting in a small cafe with a friend of mine. He was wealthy, but exhausted. I asked him, "Tell me, do you own your money or does it own you?" He was silent for a while. Then he said, "I've built assets, but I never built meaning." That's a truth many people realize far too late. You can invest in stocks, bonds, crypto, But if you're not investing in your own growth, you'll always be at the starting line. That's why I insist. Invest not just in income, but in depth. Success is harmony. It's when your money, actions, goals, and inner state all move in the same direction. That's why it's not enough to count profits. You need to ask whether those profits are actually making you happier. Because maybe you don't need more money. Maybe you need more clarity, more focus, less chaos. You'd be surprised how many financial problems disappear when you sit down in silence with a piece of paper and honestly ask yourself, what do I truly need and what am I willing to do to get it? Now let's talk about something else, the energy of money. Yes, that's not a term from an economics textbook, but it's real. Money is a reflection of your energy, your determination, your consistency. It doesn't show up by accident. It shows up for those who prepare, who stay disciplined, who track their finances, who plan. There were times in my life when I earned very little, but even then, I acted like a wealthy person. Not because I was pretending, but because a wealth mindset isn't about the balance in your account. It's about how you treat every dollar. You buy a $5 coffee. That's not just coffee. That's a choice. You put those $5 into an investment. That's your direction. You don't pay yourself first. That's your unconscious habit. And yes, every little choice shapes your future. That's why I say, either you manage your money or it manages you. And managing is about habits. It's a notebook. It's a spreadsheet. It's an evening reviewing your budget. It's a conversation with your partner about shared financial goals. It's not about control rooted in fear. It's about responsibility rooted in freedom. Another critical aspect, legacy. How are you passing on financial culture to your family, your kids, your grandkids? Because if you're learning but not sharing, that knowledge dies with you. But if you teach, even by example, you start a financial relay that can transform generations. Don't be afraid to talk about money at home. Don't be afraid to set an example. Kids don't listen, they observe. If they see you saving, planning, budgeting, they don't just copy your actions. They adopt your mindset. And lastly, allow yourself to feel gratitude, even for the resources you have now, even if it's not much. Because gratitude amplifies wealth. A person who can't be grateful will never be satisfied, no matter how much they earn. And on the flip side, someone who celebrates progress is more likely to build freedom. You've taken your first step, and that alone is something to be grateful for. You've started thinking differently. And that's already an investment. You know, I often say, change doesn't happen when you read a new book. It happens when you stop being the same person. And if after this video you can no longer look at money the way you used to, that's your breakthrough. And from that point, real growth begins. And now the moment has come when we don't just talk and we take action. I've always believed wisdom isn't knowledge. It's the ability to apply knowledge in real life. Now imagine that you and I are sitting together. I look you in the eye and ask, how are you really doing? Not the answer you give your friends, the one you give yourself. Honestly, no filters. Let's do a quick self-assessment together. It'll only take a few minutes, but the results could change your entire financial path. Ready? Grab a piece of paper or open a notes app on your phone, whatever works for you. Because you're not just a listener, you're a participant. And participants get results. Think about the following and rate each one from 1 to 10. 1 means I'm struggling, and 10 means I feel confident and solid. How would you rate your ability to save regularly, your understanding of investment tools, how well your money works for you instead of just you working for it, your financial discipline, your willingness to take action even when it feels scary or unclear? This isn't a test, it's a mirror. And if you see a score under 5 in any area, that's not failure. That's an invitation to start moving. Now take a look at your answers. Which of the 5 questions came out as your weakest point? That's the one we'll focus on for this week. Just one. Because real change comes from focus, not chaos. Let's say you gave yourself a 3 for discipline. That means it's time to create a simple 7-day plan. One small action each day. For example, day 1, read a short article on budgeting. Day 2, open a savings account. Day 3, review your expenses, and so on. Small steps that lead to big change. I've often said consistency beats rush. Don't try to change everything in a day, just start. Because the first step already shifts your direction. And if you actually wrote down your answers, I encourage you, don't keep them in your head. Write them out. Share them in the comments if you're ready. Someone out there might see themselves in your words and take their first step too. And one more thing. If this video gave you a nudge, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Why? Because every week we have conversations like this. Honest, simple, and actionable. And maybe the next video will be the one that doesn't just change your day, it changes your life. Also, leave a comment. What step are you going to take this week? Because as I've said before, a spoken commitment is 3 times stronger than a silent intention. Now imagine it's been a week. You return to your answers. Remember that one area you chose to work on? You took small steps each day. Some days were tough, some days you didn't feel like it, but you kept moving. And now, take a look at yourself. You're not the same person you were a week ago. Why? Because a person who takes action changes. And money? It's simply a reflection of your internal state. I want you to remember one simple truth. There's nothing magical about financial freedom. It's daily decisions. It's the power of habit. It's the investor's mindset, built like a muscle, one step at a time. If you saved even $10 this week, you've already planted the seed of wealth. If you read even one page about investing, you've already built a piece of financial confidence. If you reviewed your expenses, you've already taken your first step toward freedom. And here's what matters: don't stop. Because change loves consistency. You can pick a new area to work on right now. Maybe this week it's not discipline, but understanding the market. Or maybe it's creating a new income stream. Imagine if each week you focused on one weak spot. A year from now, you won't recognize yourself. You won't just be stronger, you'll be freer. Remember when I said money is your employee and you're the manager? So will your team sit idle, or will you give them tasks, direction, and strategy? The choice is yours, but know this: you already have everything you need to begin. You're not weaker than anyone else. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. And every stage is the right one, as long as you're not standing still. If this video gave you a push, I'm glad. If it made you pause and reflect, then this wasn't a random meeting. I invite you to stick with us. Subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment, type "I started" if you truly have. Because the moment you speak your action out loud, you anchor it in reality. You're not just a listener. You're already a participant, and participants change the game.